Hey Siri, FaceTime audio call Karen Sidell. Good evening, this is Robert Sidell. It's a great pleasure to be with you here tonight on the Gateway Show. And this is simulcasting. This is going out over all of Las Vegas, the number one talk station. The Gateway Show on live every Sunday evening, 6 to 7 p.m. And it's a great pleasure to be here. Let's see something here. Hold on one second here. Hold on, my friends, 1 second. So it's a great pleasure to be with you here on this evening. We're entering into the holiday season now, and it's going to be fun for us to share this time together. And I want to get you to open yourself to you and me, for each of us, to open ourselves to the idea that we have a great power of faith within us, great power of faith within us, and that with this faith, amazing things are possible. Hold on 1 second, just 1 second. So tonight, I want to really create the possibility for all of us to say, how could we use our power of faith to see the answers that we're looking for more powerfully, more magically, more wonderfully? And that's what I invite you to contemplate tonight with me. Open yourself to the idea that there's possibilities waiting for us right now as we speak in ways that we could never imagine, better, stronger, healthier than we could ever dream of. And that's, if you and I could, what could we do in our lives if we began to really harness that power? What could we do if we began to really activate our faith power? And so that's really what we're working on tonight. And I want you to open yourself to the idea that right this second, you are staring at opportunities greater than you've ever understood. So I just invite you to think to yourself, what would your life be like if you could really harness the power of faith in your own life? Because that, my friends, is the opportunity for each one of us to contemplate. Let's see here. Just 1 second here. I'm trying to set it up right now. Okay, I think we're just getting set up right now. Okay, great. We're getting it set up to go live on Facebook as well. Oops. And so I just want you to know it's a great pleasure to be here with you tonight on this, for those of you on Facebook as well. And this is an opportunity for each one of us to open ourselves to new possibilities. Every day in every way, we have all sorts of possibilities, don't we? And that's really the question, isn't it? What are we going to believe? Just 1 second here. What are we going to believe about our lives? What are we going to believe about what directions we're going to go? What are we going to believe about what we can make of our life? And if any of those things, hello Debbie, hello James, if any of those things seem like, hey, I want you to contemplate something. I really want to make that the focus during this hour we spend together tonight. What potential do we have within ourselves that is greater than we ever dreamed of? And how can we actualize it? How can we actualize it? And I was just studying over some different Bible verses tonight. And so I like to focus on the Bible because a lot of people anyway consider the things that were said as very reliable and powerful. So I want to share some ideas about faith and the power of faith right from the Bible, and to show you that the ideas I'm sharing with you are not really, they're not that far out at all. They're based right in very biblical principles. So wherever you are and whoever you are, I just invite you to just let me too. Let's open all of ourselves. Let's open ourselves to being recharged, revitalized, and opened to an entirely new set of possibilities in our life. Just think about that. What would you be? Who would you be if you could just begin to unlock the potential of your own consciousness, really? Isn't that really what we're talking about? The power of your own consciousness to create miraculous living. I mean, are you up for that possibility? Does that seem like something you'd be interested in? Because think about it. I mean, all of us have to make a decision. I'm going to put on a little bit of music here. All of us have to make a decision in our lives. Every one of us. Do we want, and what are we going to believe in our lives? What are we going to trust in our lives? Are we going to let ourselves continue to believe in good and joy? And is that what we want? What are we willing to do? What are we willing to have in our lives? So I'm putting a little bit of music here. How good are you willing to have it? How much power could you be willing to harness and let flow through you? How good would you be willing to let God's grace, how much are you willing to let God's grace come through you? What would you be if your power of grace and love and faith got turned on? Think about that. Imagine there's a switch inside of you. And maybe you've only partly touched it, or maybe you've touched it a few times in your life, but somehow you haven't learned how to keep it going. Well, tonight I want to invite you to be willing to push the button inside of you that turns on your faith power. You know, I dare say that none of us, all of us are sitting on potential that we can't even dream of. All of us are sitting on potential of love, of joy, of freedom, of grace that we can't even imagine. Every one of us. The problem is we look to the world as our point of guidance. We look around us and say, well, this is what they're doing over there, and that's what she's doing over there, or that's what he's doing. And that's what this group is doing, that's what that group is doing. And we use that as a point of reference to decide what's possible. But I want you to think about something. Everything that's worth anything significant in the world was once considered impossible by all but a very few people. That was a quote from Thomas Edison. So every major change that's ever happened for our world and also individually has to first seem impossible. So if you're not contemplating the impossible, you're not in the game where it's really exciting. So if you're looking out and saying, well, look out there's no evidence to support what I believe or want and hope, that's okay. That means you're in the right place. You got to be willing to work on the level of creation that doesn't need evidence, that's beyond evidence, or becomes its own evidence. And it may be another way of putting it. I'll read a scripture from the Bible to illustrate what I'm talking about. In Hebrews 11:1, it was said, faith, it says that have faith in God. Actually, hold on, excuse me, I read the wrong one. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen or unseen. So this is what I want you to contemplate. You and I have to be willing to create possibilities that haven't been seen by you or anybody else. When airplanes were created, nobody could look to the world and use that as a point of reference. Oh, they did that. Nobody had done it. So they had to have faith in something that could not be seen. When radios and computers and TVs, it had never been done. Somebody had to have faith in that which could not be seen and keep bringing it forth. Virtually every important idea ever was with somebody that was crazy enough to believe in that which could not be seen and not give up until that he brought it into vision, or he or she brought it into reality. So the exciting creation of reality is, are you willing to be in the realm where if you want to create something magical, wonderful, miraculous, it's got to be in a realm that you can't see it, you can't prove it, but you can bring it into being through faith. And that's what tonight's topic's all about. And I hope you get excited about that possibility. You may look in the mirror and say, well, or you may be thinking, well, but who am I? Who am I? I'll tell you who you are. You are an expression of the most infinite presence of creation of all existence. Or no, that's another word for God. You are a living expression of God. There's an old story, just a metaphorical story, that when the world was just like a Greek story. So the gods were all sitting around in heaven and creating the earth, and they sat around and talked to each other, and they were saying, well, there's great power and divine power in this world. But if people got this power, it could be dangerous. So where can we put it that they probably will never look for it? So one man said, well, put it in the mountains. So put it high in the mountains. And by the way, in spiritual journey, many people have looked for that, high in the mountains. Other gods said, put it in the forest. They won't ever look in the forest. Somebody else said, throw it deep in the ocean. they'll never look there. So they're all talking like this. And finally one God says, remember this is a Greek story. He says, I know where to put it, that they'll never look. Put it inside themselves. They'll never think of looking there. And this is my point to you, my friends. Within you, there's infinite power. Now, Jesus spoke about that. My friend Andy just put online, he says, my faith is that I am committed to the belief that Jesus Christ will welcome me into heaven if I'm a proper expression of Christianity. And Andy, I'll take it one step further. Just a slightest variation of what you said. If you accept his grace, he'll accept you and welcome you, even if you're not a perfect expression of Christianity. Because I don't know anybody even really knows what a perfect expression is. But nonetheless, I totally in total alignment with what you said, Andy. 100%, 100%, 100%. So, what I want you to open yourself to the idea is that right now, there's a spark of greatness within you. A spark of divinity within you. There's a spark of joy within you that could be ignited. And just like lighting a fuse or turning on, imagine that you had the most powerful sports car in the world and it's sitting there in your garage. And every day you go out and look at it. Wow, this is fantastic. But suppose you never put the key in or you never push the start button or whatever it takes. Are you going to get anywhere? Are you going to... Oh, okay. You're right, Andy. You didn't say perfect. You said a proper. I like that. You sure you're not a lawyer, Andy? He says a proper expression. I get it 100%. And I was just giving you a hard time, Andy. I agree with your spirit of 100% of what you said. So my friends, wherever you are right this second, we're going to go to a break in a second. I'm excited about tonight because I want you and I to step into a new part of life that perhaps we have never known before. Just say it's possible. Don't think you know how it's possible. Just dare to be with me on that point. This is Robert Sidell. I'm going to go to a break right now. You're listening to The Gateway Show on live every Sunday evening, 6 to 7 p.m. on the #1 talk station here in Las Vegas. And I'll be back in a second. And those of you on Facebook, stay with me right now. So, my friends, I started out tonight, the topic was don't overlook the answer in front of you. And I started looking at some different scriptures in the Bible. And I started realizing how many times Jesus tried to talk to us about faith and how important faith is and what faith can do for us. And I think that no matter, even though he said these things, somehow we sort of forget about it. We kind of forget. And he just said all these kind of wonderful things that if you could really harness the faith in your own mind and spirit, in your own relationship to God, that you could do extraordinary, miraculous, wonderful, healing things. Now, listen to this. Now, I want you to think about this. We can trust that he knew what he was talking about. Because you know what? If he didn't know what he was talking about, how is it that he did all these miraculous things that we're still talking about him 2,000 years later? And there's lots and lots of evidence to a lot of all of that. I don't want to get into too much of that right this second. But just go to me and dare to trust that he was trying to teach us. Every great teacher, and on one level, Jesus Christ is a great teacher. There's many different things. But every great master seeks to take his disciples and make the disciples even greater than him. And what did Jesus say about that? He said, you can do greater things than me. You can do greater things than me. So how many of us really believe that, my friends? How many of us believe we can do greater things than Jesus? Let's see what he said here. John 14, truly, whoever believes in me, let's see where to go, will do the works I've been doing. They'll even do greater things than me. John 14:12. Think about that. Jesus, he didn't say, that's how much he loved you and I. He didn't say, I'm just so fancy. I'm just so special. Thanks, Marie. Marie says, thank you for this weekly opportunity to focus on Christ. He didn't say, look at me, I'm special. Look at me, I'm so wonderful. Instead, what he said is, you can do these things. You can do these things. Hold on one second. I'm going to put that down on me. I want to keep going back over that for a few minutes. So think about that. Think about that. He laid out a very powerful formula for us. And I'm going to keep going over some different formulas he laid out during this. But Are you willing to know and be awakened to the infinite possibilities of your own life? Are you willing to be awakened to the infinite possibilities of God's grace in your heart and soul? And it starts with willingness. If you're not willing, then hey, the conversation's already over, isn't it? But if you're willing, a lot of things just start with a little bit of willingness. We're about to go back on the radio just a second here. Good evening, this is Robert Sidell. It's a great pleasure to be with you here on this Sunday night on the Gateway Show, broadcasting live 6 to 7 p.m. every week on #1 talk station in Las Vegas. So tonight I'm focusing on something very simple, really. It's simple to talk about. And even the reality may be simpler than we think, but putting it into action, like everything else in life, that's where the challenge becomes. So my idea, hello Marianne, how you doing? My idea very simply is this. You, in your mind and spirit, have a living connection to the Almighty God who created this very existence. And Jesus talked a lot about that. And that's why I've been reading some different scriptures from him, which are really quotes of things he said. So let's go back and talk about them, a couple of them again. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. If you start with faith in your mind that something's possible, and don't let the world talk you out of it, remember he said, do not be conformed to the mind of the world, remember that, then what can you begin to do? If you can cultivate your mind to not be defeated by the appearances of the world. And there's always a lot of appearances that can scare us or make us be pessimistic about life. There's always a lot. But it's up to you and I. Will we be talked out of our vision and our dream if we feel that God has guided us by the appearances of the world? Jesus is very clear. If you do that, you'll fail. Do not be conformed to the world. The world's going to tell you, the world's always broadcasting messages of illness and sickness and disease and suffering. And if you don't believe that, just turn on the news sometime. And you'll hear all sorts of stories of that all the time. Not saying that in any way to be critical of anybody that finds himself in those stories, not even a little bit. But if you and I want to help those people the most, the best thing you can humanly do is to open your heart to God's infinite, divine joy in ways that you could never imagine. If you could let God ignite within you a fire of love that's greater than anything that has ever been created, you yourself could begin to transform the world. And to contemplate that. The way you can serve the homeless, the sick, the needy, the marriage that's not working, the way you can serve all those people is to let your heart become a field of God's infinite love. Let you become a miracle worker of divine grace. If you allow yourself to become an instrumentality of God's grace, you will be lifting the world up. See, most of the world, what we try to do to resolve problems, and this is what all our news is all about, is we think if we focus on all the problems, boy, it's going to get fixed. Actually, it doesn't usually work that way, whether it's even in your own relationship, in a marriage, or anything else. If you focus on the problems, the problems are going to tend to become greater. There's an old saying that the bee gets honey by focusing on the flowers. The bottom line is, what you focus on is what you're going to create. So if you started to contemplate that you, at the very core of your soul, have an infinite spirit of love, grace, and divine awakening right now, in you, right now, exactly as you are, the weight you are, whatever story you've got going. Marianne's saying, help me understand and not be understood. Yeah, that's kind of what, that's great. St. Francis, that's exactly what I'm talking about here tonight, Marianne. So the greatest gift you and I can bring to this world, really, is probably not another social program. There's lots of social programs, and God bless them, there will be new ones, and that's great, that's fine. But if you and I really want to make a difference, and and find the leverage point of really making a difference in the world, if you can let God's infinite light be ignited within you in a powerful, transcendent, divine way, then you know what? You can make a huge difference in this world. And you may not be known by anybody else, doesn't even make any difference. But you will make a difference. You're already making a difference. Marianne, Ernie, Marie, all of you are making a difference to people around you. You know, we all make differences we don't even realize. I remember I had a barber, and I went to him a number of years, and then he passed away. And his son came to me one day and told me he'd passed away. And he says, "You probably don't know this, but you really made a big difference to my dad." Well, the funny part of it is I had no idea about that. I always enjoyed talking to him, but I never had any perception of that. Didn't realize it. And I'm going to tell you it's the same thing for each one of you. You make a difference to the people in your world. You may say it's just me. You know, it's funny, when my dad was getting older, he was in his mid-90s, I think he was surprised that people still really looked to him as a role model and were inspired by him. Because, and the same thing happened to Billy Graham. Now, my dad and Billy Graham were very different people, but when Billy Graham, towards the end of his life, he was up living, I think I don't remember, it was in North Carolina, wherever it was. He lived up in kind of a mountain retreat. And he started to think people didn't remember him, didn't even know who he was, which was far from the truth. But I think sometimes that tends to happen. My dad was a little bit of the same thing. It was like he couldn't quite realize, my dad, how much he inspired all of us, because here he was going, when he was 92, he went to Antarctica. I mean, that was just one of many different things he did. When he was 95 or 94 or something, he and I went to Costa Rica together to do some business down there. It's a funny story, and a side note, but, and my lawyer down there was very embarrassed about this. We had to walk up like 5 flights of stairs. And here's my dad in his 90s walking up 5 flights of stairs. And it was like, are we going to make it? You know, are we going to make it up to where we got to go? And, but my dad kept inspired. He kept moving. He didn't let the world knock him down. And I'll tell you, it doesn't mean he didn't have some discouragements. I think as he encountered some of his physical limitations towards the latter part of his life in his late 90s, I mean, sometimes it was discouraging to him. But he still kept believing and moving forward. I remember leaving church about a week before he died, and we were walking out, and I would always hold his arm, you know, so he didn't fall or something. He was 99 at that time. And we would get to a curb to step off of. And this is a regular curb, maybe, what, 4 inches or something, maybe 5 inches outside the church, just as a regular small curb. And he says, "Bob, for me right now, that could be the Himalayas. That's how risky it is to me." And I thought to myself, that's where humility comes in. Here, my dad had gone to Antarctica. He'd hiked to the top of the tallest mountain in California, Mount Whitney. He'd gone to the big mountains and hiked to the Chilkoot Pass in Alaska, where the gold miners went. Done all these things, traveled all around the world. But here he was in his late 90s, and for him, stepping off a curb was a great challenge. But you know, but nonetheless, he made a difference, and that's what you do too. You make a difference to the people around you. You may think you don't, but you do. You inspire the people around you. And it's my job to remind you of that tonight. But what I want to focus on is this simple idea that you have a power of faith given to you by God that you have not yet fully awakened. I know that because if you're not walking on water, you haven't fully awakened it. I'm not really suggesting that as a possibility. I don't think that story needs to be done again. But that was Jesus' story. But he did say, so let me read you some more things he said. So we'll start with, again, Hebrews 11:1. I think I'll post the series of these different scriptures. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. Which means you can have faith to create something there's no evidence for. Now, it doesn't mean you want to be stupid or something, but nonetheless, a lot of the greatest accomplishments are people who started something that everybody else thought was impossible. Okay. Yeah, Marianne, I interviewed my dad on the radio once. I wish I could find that recording. Boy, I would love that. But anyway, that's number one. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. You've been given this power. Now, next one. Is a famous story, and it's talked about in Matthew. Um, and it's funny, I copied it all in, but I think it was Matthew. Yeah, Matthew 22. No, actually, sorry, Mark 22 through 24. It's funny, I put the quotes in, but I didn't put the book of the Bible. But so this is a fun story that I like. I mean, to me, it's fun. I've talked about it before, but I'll say it again. Jesus is walking along with his disciples, this group of young men. I like to think of them as a group of young men that were talking together, just like Einstein would get together with some of his friends. And that's where he came up with the ideas of the theory of relativity. So they're walking along together, and they see a tree, a fig tree in the distance, and Jesus says, let's get some fruit off of that tree. They go over to get the figs off the tree, and there's no figs on it. So Jesus, and this is always kind of a little bit of a shock to everybody, he literally cursed the tree and says, may you never grow another fig again. And they just heard this and didn't think too much about it. You know, probably lots of people have said things like that at one point or another in their life. And the next morning, Jesus is walking along and suddenly the disciples see that tree and it's dead. Or as the Bible says, it was all withered up. And the disciples ask him, they said, Jesus, look what happened to that tree. It died. The one you cursed yesterday, it died. And Jesus gave a response that if you and I listen to this response, it could change our life forever. He says, you have to have faith in God. He goes, truly, I tell you, and if anyone says to a mountain, go throw yourself into the sea, and does not doubt in their heart, but believes that what they say will happen, it will be done for them. Therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. See, that's a pretty powerful statement. Not just pretty powerful. It's a formula for miracles, if you want to be honest about it. It's a formula for miracles. And Jesus, again, he wasn't saying, and I can do this and you can't. He said, if you have faith in God and don't doubt, and ask, and there's one end to that I did not include. He also says, and forgive everyone against which you have a grievance or grudge. Ask, have faith, don't doubt, and forgive. If you're willing to do that, the sky's the limit. This is Robert Sidell. We're going to go to a break right now, but I'm going to keep talking to you on Facebook. We're going to a break. This is the Gateway Show. Be back in just a moment. So, here's a guy. I love this story because it's just kind of humorous in a way. This is young group of men. Can't you get the picture of it? And Jesus just, for whatever his reasons, curses this tree. It dies. And then in the explanation to his disciples about what happened, why it died, he says, look, faith is powerful. Because whatever you ask for of God, believing, not doubting, it will be done. And the question is, again, that means that he was telling you and I, we have a spark of divinity within us. If we can learn to master it, all things are possible. The question is, how many of us believe that? How many of us do that? It reminds me of a story I heard once from Zig Ziglar. He said, this is not, I'll tell you the kind of faith you shouldn't have. So this guy was talking to his kid, and the kid came home from school and said, Dad, I failed my exam. And he says to his son, he says, son, you must be positive about things. He goes, Dad, I'm positive. I failed my exam. That's how some of us are living our lives. That kind of faith is not going to help you. If you have faith that you're never going to succeed, you can never be free, you can never be happy, that's going to turn out to be your destiny. Because part of the gift we've been given on this earth is the power of faith. Again, I'll read it to you again. This is straight from Jesus, his words. Have faith in God. And this is Mark 11:22 to 24 or 25. Let's see. 11:22. It says, have faith in God. Truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, go throw yourself into the sea, and does not doubt in their heart, but believes what they say will happen, it will be done for them. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe you have received it, and it will be yours. Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe you received it, it will be yours. So think about that. When you ask things of God, do you believe it will happen? Now I will qualify it slightly to what he said. No matter what I ask for in my prayers, I always say, God, but your will be done. And I'm sure he meant that also, believe me. I'm sure that probably was there, and I just didn't see that part. But keep in mind, though, that if you ask and have faith and don't doubt, you're unleashing an enormous power. So tonight I'm challenging each one of you out there. Dare to allow your power through God to be awakened. If you get 3 people, or 100 people, or 1,000 people that were truly willing to walk in the light of God, we could change the world. But we have to follow that first principle of Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. If you really want to change the world, you got to dare to create and believe things that have never been seen. For example, hold on one second, we're about to go back on the radio. Good evening, my friends. I welcome you back to the Gateway Show on every Sunday night, 6 to 7 p.m. on the #1 talk station in Las Vegas, and also simulcasting on Facebook. My invitation to you tonight is to have at least a willingness and an inkling of willingness to know that within you there's a spark of creation, of God's light, that is so powerful that if you are willing to act in faith and trust and absolute resting upon that faith and standing in it, that you can become literally a miracle worker. And Jesus gave so many examples of that. So many examples of that. And he said the same thing over and over and over and over again. He always came back to, it's your faith that will heal you. And the question is, what kind of faith do you have, and what are you believing in? Are you like that little kid who says, Dad, I'm positive I failed? Are you putting your faith in the direction of negativity? One of the lessons I learned in my life, and I've just been reminded of this again in the last couple of years of my life, without realizing it, to protect ourselves, we may make our dreams very small. That way we don't have to face the possibility we could fail. So we live a small dream, a small vision, and as a result, we never really reach for anything great. Is that the life you want? Do you want to get to the end of your life and say, well, God, I could have done a lot more, I know, but I was scared, I was afraid, and you understand, right? And actually, the funny part is God will say, yes, I do understand. I love you. But I really had more waiting for you. There was more good waiting for you. And that's what I want to challenge each one of you to think about. God has a lot waiting for you. God has the whole kingdom of heaven waiting for you. And God wants you to dare to break out of your shell and be something great. Be something great. And dare to trust that you make a difference. And you do make a difference. I'm positive you make a difference. You make a bigger difference than you think you do. You may say, well, it's just old me. That's not true. It is true. And the more faith you have, the more difference you'll make. People need that. People need that. We all need it. It's funny. I was at a legal Christmas party last night. It's kind of scary, isn't it? It's not even talk about it, but I'm just teasing you. But it was a very exciting party. I won't give any details, but it was a very wonderful invitation for me, and I went with some members of my family. It was a very exciting opportunity. But I had at least a couple of different attorneys came up to me and was just so appreciative of some of the messages I share. Because it's not, attorneys are kind of caught up in their work like everybody else. So the fact I'm sharing a positive message makes a difference to people. So dare to know. You want to see miracles in your life? Dare to go back to Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. So you've been given that formula. You can have faith, and that faith can turn into substance, and that substance becomes the evidence of things unseen. In other words, you can't see it, but you're trusting it's coming into being, and you're walking forth in that possibility. Now, isn't that kind of what Jesus did when he fed 5,000 people with 5 fish, 3 fish, whatever? Isn't that what he did? He had faith in substance unseen, out of which thousands of people were fed. That's the world we're talking about. Okay. Then, the second one I told you is Mark 11:22-25. After he cursed the fig tree and his disciples asked him, why did it die? He says, don't you understand? Faith is powerful. Whatever you ask for, believing in it, not doubting, and forgiving everybody that you have any grudges against, it will be done. Well, that's not like, hey, you might try it, maybe it'll help, maybe it'll work. He says you could say to a mountain, move to the sea, and it will move to the sea. That's a pretty big statement to say. He wasn't saying you have a little bit of power. Yeah, you can make your life a little bit better. just a tiny bit, maybe if you're real lucky on a good day. He didn't say anything like that. He said, you've been endowed with extraordinary, miraculous power. And it can be activated with your faith. Think about that. He said you. He didn't say him. He said you. And then the third principle, no matter what faith you have and what faith in the invisible you have, you need guidance. So Jesus also said something. He said, it's in Matthew 7:7. I like his numbers, easy to remember. Matthew 7:7. It's like Las Vegas, we got our sevens, right? Ask anything of God. He goes, and if you ask, it will be given to you, and you will find. Knock, and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks it will be opened. Let me read that one more time. This is Matthew 7:7. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks it will be opened. That's pretty powerful stuff. And I'll tell you how God works in this world. I had a friend of mine call me this week. He's been attending some very, yeah, lawyers are people too, yeah, that's true. Glad you reminded me of that, Marianne. No, I'm just teasing you. I have lots of good lawyer friends, including you, Marianne, and me. We're both. But there's lots of great lawyers. They're very nice people. But they, like everybody else, they get stuck in their stories, right? Lawyers, like any other group of people. And so it's nice when you can create some light and help people be encouraged. And so, lawyers sometimes all of the world can sometimes be facing negativity. And that happens to lawyers too. That's why they can be stressed, and a lot of lawyers can sometimes have problems, can fall into problems with drug addiction, things like that, because they may be stressing out. But I want you to come back to this though, this idea. So, because this is very, very, very profound. So first we've heard that faith is the substance of things unseen, the evidence of things unseen. Okay. Second thing we heard is that if you have enough faith, you can move a mountain. That's Mark 11:22. Third thing we're hearing is Matthew 7:7. Ask, and you shall receive. Knock, and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks it will be opened. So there's a lot, and in a lot of ways the Bible is very simple. Hey, you got a lot of power, you got a lot of faith. Ask, and you'll be given answers. So this week somebody called me. He says, I want to share something with you. I said, what's that? He goes, he's been attending this number of in-depth seminars and spiritual classes. He goes, you want to know what the real takeaway of it all is? I said, yeah, well, tell me. I love takeaways. He's been spending weeks and weeks and weeks. He's going to share that takeaway with me. And he says, the takeaway is this. If you ask God deep in your heart with strong intention, God will answer you. That's exactly the same thing Jesus says in Matthew 7:7. Ask and you shall receive. Knock and it shall be opened. So independently, somebody calls me up and tells me this message. And so when he called me that, it was kind of like divine grace. And suddenly I started asking God on a deeper level. And that's what he was saying. He'd been taught. Dare to ask on a deeper level. Ask and you shall receive. Knock, it shall be opened to you. For he who asks, it shall be answered. He who knocks, it shall be opened. So that's Matthew 7:7. These are very simple ideas that Jesus laid out. But how many of us really take them to heart? And I'm not being critical of us. We're human beings and we have lots of limitations in ourselves. But still, my invitation to each of you is, in this Christmas season, dare to let the power of God be ignited inside of you. What could happen if you did that? I was talking to my sister about some of the things that have been going on in my life. And she goes, I've been listening to you. And there have been a lot of wonderful things. So I've been listening to you. And she goes, what I realize is you've developed an unconscious rule that good things are going to keep happening. Adventures and excitement and romance and all these good things. And I said, yeah, well, actually, I guess I have. And she was just listening to me talking. And that was a few weeks ago we talked. And then I look at these things that keep happening in my life. And it's like magical, wonderful, happy experiences just keep showing up. And sometimes what I was telling her is I sometimes wonder, well, how are these things going to keep showing up? There's so many good things. I mean, it seems like God's going to run out of those good things. You ever had a thought like that? Not really run out, but you know what I'm saying. It's like, how can God top this? I mean, this party I went to last night, again, without going into too many details, it was a magical experience. That's the best way I could describe it. I'd even go so far to say in some ways a life-changing experience. Yeah, Ellen, exactly. My friend Ellen, ask. If you never ask, you won't receive. Exactly. And Ellen, you're Jewish, and so is your brother Jesus. And he was basically saying, hey, you gotta ask for more, all of you. You gotta dare to ask. Now, I always ask, but I always ask for God's will too, because I really don't want something that's not right for me. So I do qualify it that way. But still, for example, I'm going to ask for something, and this is one of those things that could well seem like impossible somewhat. I'm asking for love and peace to come into the hearts of man, and we can find some peaceful solutions in the Middle East. Actually, everywhere, really. But I'm going to ask for that. I am asking for that right now. Now, you might say this, the rational, logical mind says, yeah, but that's too tough for God. You know, that God doesn't know how to work that one out. And then you could look to the world and say, yeah, see, look, here's the evidence. This problem's been going on a long time. But again, that's why you have to dare to dream and believe in something without having evidence that it's possible. And then have it trust in your own heart and soul that it is possible, whatever part of your life, whatever you're facing. And at the very least, you and I may not, who knows what we can create in the larger world, but at least in our own life, we can open our hearts to the miraculous, miracle-working power of God's grace and begin to live in this world as a miraculous being, meeting joy, love, and harmony and exciting new opportunities day in and day out. You know, as an attorney, I'm a very fortunate person because I've got a lot of nice clients at this point to come by and visit and say hi, and it's very emotionally rewarding to me. And so I'm very, very grateful to have that opportunity in my life. It's some people ask me if I'm going to retire or not, and all I can say is at the moment, no, because it's still valuable to me because on all sorts of levels. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy meeting new people. I don't particularly have a desire to sit around doing nothing. Now, mind you, could be retired and doing all sorts of things, so I'm not putting it down. I have some friends that are doing a great job of retirement. But I think as long as you have dreams and can keep yourself going, it doesn't matter if you're retired or not. But still, for me, strangely enough, you know, that what I may have resisted in the past as a lawyer and frustrated, now has become my friend, which just seems hard to believe in a way, you know, that it's come to be such a loving, supportive experience for me. It doesn't mean there aren't some frustrations and disappointments and struggles that I still have to work through. But in general, I get enough love and joy. And one of the things I try to do, we're going to go to a break right now. I try to hug my clients if they're open to it. I just offer that opportunity. Trying to do it the right way now. But we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we'll have Ernie with us. I don't know if Janet's going to be here or not, but Ernie will be with us. Stay tuned. I'll be back in just a moment. This is Robert Sidell. This is the Gateway Show. So again, let's come back to this for a second. We've got three different scriptures. Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. That's powerful. You don't have to have evidence before you have faith. Okay, that's real powerful. The second one, Mark 11:22 through 25. If you have enough faith and you don't doubt, here's how it says. And he says, I tell you, if anyone said to this mountain, go throw yourself into the sea, and does not doubt in their heart, but believes they will say, it will happen. It will be done for them. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe you have already received, and it will be yours. I don't know about you, but to me that sounds like a pretty powerful formula. And again, we're not talking about anything that's far out. We're talking about something right out of the Bible. Jesus is saying, hey, you have great power through prayer. And then the third one, Matthew 7:7, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives. The one who seeks finds. And the one who knocks will be opened. Now think about this. I want you to think about it real seriously. I'm thinking about it too. How many of us really do that? How many of us really do that? Do we have just occasional wistful thinking? Or do you sit down and say, hey, I'm praying to you, God, today, and I'm going to seek the highest possibilities, and I'm open to that right now. And I know that you can, in fact, deliver me the answers I'm looking for. How many of us have that kind of assurance and faith? That's what you and I've got to do. All right, hold on a second. I'm going to see if I can get Ernie online here. Hold on a second there. Hey, Ernie, are you there? Let's see. Oh, you know what I think what might have happened? Hold on a second here. No? Denise, it's great to see you there. That's it, Marianne, you gotta believe. How are you? Oh, there it is. There's Ernie. Perfect, perfect. Hold on a second here. I gotta do something here. Oops. Just one second. I'm trying to get a couple things set up. I got Ernie here, though. Yeah. Ernie, are you hearing music? Are you hearing music at all, Ernie?
No, I'm not hearing any music. No.
Okay, good.
Plus, I put my sound off. I cut the sound out, so
that's better.
I can't hear any music.
Okay, we're about to go back on right now. Good evening. This is Robert Sidell. It's a great, great pleasure to be here tonight. This is the Gateway Show on live, 6 to 7 p.m. live. You're hearing the music. I was trying to figure out how to turn that particular music off, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to or not. But you'll have to just listen to Ernie's prayer over the music. So, Reverend Ernie, you just had a great trip. Oh, here comes Janet, too. Great, great. Ernie, you just got back from India, didn't you?
Yes, I got back from New Delhi, my wife and my older son, 2 weeks ago. Yes.
And that's where you were born in India, right?
Yes, I was born in India, correct.
So tell me, what's your takeaway? Remember I told you somebody called me in a takeaway. He says, be willing to ask God for what you see. What's your takeaway going back to India? What comes to you after having been there?
Well, I was more like a little bit like a tour guide for my wife, Denise, and my son, Steve. And we visited some places, even spiritual places or religious places like the Golden Temple in Amritsar, and another temple, a Sikh temple in Delhi, and about 3 or 4 Hindu temples as well. And it's quite quite a change. Very well, something new for Denise and my son Steve. They'd never been to India before.
So what did they think about it?
Yeah, well, they liked it, and the lifestyle is very different, and the food is very different from our, from American way of eating. But it was a fast-paced movement in India. But again, they did enjoy it, and they were glad to be back again, back to Las Vegas.
So tell me, did you enjoy the food over there?
Oh yeah, I did. Yes, and it got a few days to get used to it, maybe about a couple days. But eating Indian meals, at least lunch and dinner, twice a day. So for 9 days.
You know what? I've never been to India. I've met Indian teachers and masters, but I personally have never been there. I wonder, do you think I should try to go over there? Would you recommend that?
Well, I'd like to. It's.
Do you think it'd be good? No, I said, do you think it'd be good for me to go over there?
Yes, you'll enjoy it and go with somebody that or have somebody that can speak the language, mostly Hindi. So that way, even though a lot of Indians do speak English, but the people that are in transportation and taxi cabs and tuk-tuk and some hotels and restaurants, it'd be nice somebody can converse in Hindi. But I can get by with English, but it'd be nice if somebody or yourself can converse few words in Hindi.
That's good advice. That's good advice. In other words, that makes sense. Get a guide. I've heard it say that's what we need to do spiritually too, right? Have a guide. And
yes.
For those of us that accept Christ, then that's a great thing. What's this in Hindi, Meeman, Urdu, Pashto? What's that? Leroy put something. I don't know what that stands for. He put it down here. Miman Urdu Pashto. Have you ever heard that before?
Urdu is one. Yeah, I heard about Urdu. Urdu it's been derived from the Islamic or Muslims who developed the Urdu. In It's kind of sounds a little bit like Hindi, but they kind of
I see.
changed some
So there are
words.
different languages. I see. Well, I don't want to
Yeah.
run out of time. So Ernie, you know what? You're
Yes.
making me think I should just spend time, like maybe 10 or 15 minutes interviewing you, and then maybe the next show, and you can
Sure.
tell us about
Definitely.
your
Yes.
experiences
Thank
and
you.
adventures there. All right. Go ahead and share a prayer with us right now. I don't want to run out of time.
All right. Thank you, Robert. The prayer topic is don't overlook your answer. Lord, thank you for this blessed day. Guide us not to lose sight of heavenly realities while we apply ourselves diligently to the circumstances of our earthly lives. Enable us to hear your voice, follow your will, pursue your purpose, and trust our intuitive and instincts from within, not to overlook our answer. Lord, we know your love for us is always available, and who hears our prayers and has a divine plan and purpose for us. We pray for others and for ourselves, for forgiveness of our mistakes and errors, and for healing. We pray that we are moved into your will every area of our lives so that our prayers reflect the will of your plan in us, and the answers that we seek from within are not overlooked, creating heaven on earth. And so it is.
All right.
Amen.
I always love it when you do that. And creating heaven on earth, and so it is. It's like
Thank you.
that's how we serve God. The more good you and I can create, guess what? The more good's going to happen. That's how we serve God. See something here. Okay, all right. Janet, what do you have to share with us tonight? We don't have a lot of time. I apologize because I'd asked him a little bit about it, but go ahead and share a message with us.
Well, no, it's just actually you were talking about faith, and I knew that I had seen something in a movie once. So I looked it up, and I may not pronounce, there's a section of the Alps called Simmering, I guess, Semmering, and it's very, very impossibly steep, very high part of the mountains. And they actually built a train track over these Alps to connect Vienna and Venice. And they built the tracks before there was a train in existence that could even make the trip.
Hey, that's
faith. That's faith.
There you go. As a matter of fact, you just reminded me of something, but we're almost out of time. There's a book that a lady wrote, that I read a long time ago. It's called Florence Scovel is her name, called The Game of Life. Yeah,
right.
Like 1910, believe it or not. But she talks all about that idea. Lay your plans ahead, knowing good is coming. That's kind of what they were doing, right? With those tracks. They said, we don't even know about a train. We're going to build the tracks anyway. And that's what we all got to do. We've got to live as if. That's one way to activate our faith. Live as if great things are coming. Trust that great things are coming. Trust that you're going to be blessed and lifted up in ways you could never imagine. And that's any of you listening, and if somebody listening in the future of this recording, trust the best is yet to come. And remember those scriptures I've been laying out to you this whole hour. Jesus said, you can do it. You've got great power and you're a spark of divinity. So Janet, I would actually take more time, but that's actually a perfect message you shared. You summarized the whole hour in that one message.
Yeah, it's kind of an amazing story, but it's true. That's what happened. And it's funny. It's interesting. Oh, I saw it in a movie, but then, go ahead.
She's telling me my time there is up. So thank you for sharing your train story. And Ernie should like that. He likes train stories. And then Ernie, I think next week we'll talk to you all about India. That sounds like fun. All right, my friends, God bless you. Remember, God is real, miracles real. For that reason, the best is yet to come. Expect it, create it, and know it this week. This is Robert Sidell, The Gateway Show. Have a great week.
Have a great week.
Okay.
Wonderful.
God bless.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.